Hi everyone and welcome back to the garden. First, let's talk about the elephant in the room, this hat that everyone seems to love in my last video. I got that from 𝗩𝗜𝗗𝗘𝗧𝗦. It's a company that I stumbled upon, I think on Instagram or Facebook through an advertisement, and I saw that they had this hat on their website, which I think is called Woodstock. I'm not certain, but I think it's the Woodstock. And it's like $36, and I had to have it because it was beautiful. They have a lot of other cool designs too, so if you're a gardener, it's supposed to have SPF 50 protection or sun protection, so it was like a perfect gardening hat, especially with flowers on it like I love. So the thing I want to talk about today, as I've mentioned in some previous videos, I think some things just not doing well in the location that they're in, or they've kind of outgrown that location. So I'm going to discuss some items that I'm going to be moving, probably late September. That'll give them time to get acclimated in their new spot before our first frost, maybe early September, depending on how the weather is looking. I don't want to do it when it's too hot, but if we're getting consistent rain, I can go ahead and get those things moved. So we'll walk around the garden and I'll show you some ideas I have and some things that I'm definitely going to be moving. I'm going to try and start a running list of things that I'm going to be moving just so I don't forget anything. Because if you're looking at moving anything in your garden, fall is probably the preferable time to do it. It gives it all winter to get rooted in nicely. Of course, add some Biotone starter fertilizer or some other starter fertilizer to kickstart that root growth. And then for perennials, it's pretty easy. You just cut those back in the fall when you move them. That way they're not putting any effort into leaf development or any of that type stuff. So let's walk around and check out a few things, and I'll show you a few ideas I have. So first things first, I purchased more plants. And those are the things I'm going to go over first, because I kind of want your input on a couple things, or if you have any other ideas about things that I should plant in the locations that I'm going to discuss in a bit, let me know. But Home Depot, I think nationwide, has been having their 50% off shrub sale for the last week or more. Well, this weekend I went and picked up a few things, including more of the Nandinas. So I got the lemon lime, and I just got 2 of each right now, and then the Obsession. This is not the same variety that I picked up and showed in a video earlier this year. This is the one that gets a little bigger, but I have a specific place I might want to put this. And so this is what it looks like. It's got red new growth, 3 to 4 foot tall and wide. And these typically don't need any trimming. I mean, if they get bigger than that and you need to control their size, you can, but the intent is not to trim these. They're supposed to be little fluffy hedges or specimens. I picked up a Ruby Slippers oak leaf hydrangea because it was on sale for $15. So each of these were $15 in my area anyway from Home Depot. And this it was the only one they had, and so I grabbed it because I can stick it somewhere in the garden. And then, just because I was off work this past week and went around to various garden centers just to relax, as I like to do weekly during this time of year. It doesn't happen every weekend. That can be a bit much, and it can also get a bit expensive. But there's one plant that I picked up at 𝗍𝗛𝗗𝗧𝗦 locally that I hadn't seen at any other garden centers, and I actually discovered the plant, I guess you could say, from a video that North Lawn Flower Farm posted of a tour of her garden. It was June or July, so it was recently posted. And I'm going to show you that right quick, because this year, you've probably noticed I did these containers over here that are all foliage. So I'm really on a foliage kick this year. I, of course, have lots of blooms in my garden from the hydrangeas, and so I've been focusing a lot on foliage. So this is all foliage. No blooms whatsoever. I've been really obsessed with 𝗩𝗥𝗚𝗧𝗦 the past couple years. Those, of course, bloom, but you don't grow 𝗩𝗥𝗚𝗧𝗦s for their blooms. And then just lots of other foliage stuff, because there's a lot of perennials that will give you beautiful flower power for a few weeks or a month. And then you have to cut them back, and then you just don't have blooms again for a little while, or you just have to wait around. So I'm going to show you this other shrub that also blooms, but it's primarily prized for its foliage. So this, my friends, is a blue shadow Fothergilla, and it's really, really lovely. Look at these powdery blue leaves, and so it can get quite large, and I'm going to discuss where I might end up planting it. I actually considered sticking it right there, just as some color difference along this hydrangea hedge. I'm not sure. I did buy some supports for these hydrangeas, and they look a little rough. I need to come through and fluff them, but just to get the blooms off so I can get a better idea of my space here when I can underplant with perennials. Now these likely should have been supported earlier in the year and they wouldn't be so crazy looking right now, but I just did this a couple hours ago, so looks a little funny right now. But I'm not sure that I'm going to put it there, but I'll show you where I might stick it. So I'm considering putting it in between one of these oaks. Where, I'm not sure yet. So I have a Pearl Glam Beautyberry here, a yellow willow, I think this one's Sunrise, Arctic Sunrise or something like that. It's yellow anyway, the stems are yellow. So it's kind of like a red twig willow, but yellow. So it's a shrub form. And then I have 4 Proudberry coral berries because I kind of wanted like some symmetry over this side. Now I'm kind of changing my mind. That's the nice thing about being a gardener. You can just change these things at whim. I'm thinking about removing either on this end, I think it would look really neat right there, or that one down there. So it might be good to do that one. So I have, you know, hydrangea, this blue foliage, 3 Proudberry coral berries, which those may not stay there either. If I find some more interesting shrubs, I might replace those. And then these 2 shrubs down here to kind of balance it out. I don't know, still thinking about it, but it does get 5 foot tall. The tags kind of vary. So it says like 3 to 5 to 6 foot tall and wide. So I don't really know how it will do until I get it in the ground, how big it'll get. But I just can't get over that foliage. It's really beautiful and really striking. It's so powdery blue, and I don't have that color in the backyard, I don't think. The only thing that's kind of close to it is the blue arrow juniper I discussed in my last tree video. I also thought it would be really pretty down here by these golden ticket privet and these barberries, but I just don't have anywhere to stick it back here, I don't think. And I also kind of want it closer where I can look at it more often because it's just incredible. But it also could potentially work in this area here. Those are some annuals. Actually, those are Rudbeckias from seed, and I think they will actually be perennial, but the intention was not for them to necessarily be perennial. So right there is an option as well. Let me know what you think about between those 2 areas. I want somewhere where I can look at it, and the garden's getting a little full. So I don't know. But I've got several months to think about it because I'm not going to be planting it anytime soon. It's going to stay over there, get sufficient moisture because the weather we've been having is just really hot, and you just don't really want to be planting stuff in July and then into August either. So on to what I will be moving in September. The first thing is going to be several of those things I mentioned in 2 videos ago about the things that don't trust the plant tags. It's going to be these hydrangeas. So these are Tuff Stuff 𝗂𝗂. They're supposed to have really big blooms on them. You can actually see they don't look the greatest because they've been burned so much here. But I think I'm going to put these out front under the Sweet Bay Magnolia. I think will be the best place for those. They'll get morning sun and then they'll be protected the rest of the day, and they should thrive pretty well right there. It stays pretty moist. I think they'll be happy. The other Tuff Stuffs I have there are happy. I just have tiny Tuff Stuffs there right now, and part of them get enough light to bloom. There's one specifically that doesn't bloom very well, and I think it's just the lack of light that it gets. But those where I intend to place them, where my geraniums are, will probably get more light. And so I've kind of wanted to get away from having to plant a bunch of annuals in my garden. And those geraniums are something that I kind of do every year, and I like growing them. I grow them from seed, but if I had something up there that I didn't have to plant annuals, you know, I love a perennial or small shrub, those would do it. And so there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and I actually have one over here. It's in a different location that I got at a different time. So there's potentially 8 that I could put there. That would look pretty good, I think. So those are definitely going to be moved. In their place, I have the Mango Salsa Roses under the Sweet Bay Magnolia. Probably move those here, and there's only 4 of them, so I could actually do a tighter clumping here. And I actually hadn't even thought about this, but I could put the roses to the right, and then I could plant that Blue Shadow Fothergilla right here. See, I'm just designing on a whim. I don't know. But the blue shadow does says it likes full sun to partial sun. It will definitely get full sun pretty much right here, at least in the evening. It will be more protected, from the very harsh light at the end of the day. But that might be a good option too, and I don't have to remove any of these proudberry whorlberries. But if I move those proudberry whorlberries, I think I've already discussed, or I had mentioned that I'm probably removing my fruit trees because they just haven't done anything over the past several years. And they're difficult to take care of and get disease and all that stuff. So to get them out of my garden, I'm going to be removing those and probably converting a lot of it into a cut flower space, so I could take those shrubs and put them back there and have shrubs to cut on and not have to cut off the one I have in the landscape. So to the extent I'm going to be removing stuff out of my more formal area garden, that will probably go into the mini orchard, as I call it now, as cutting plants. So that's the intent right now anyway. We'll see if it changes. Stuff changes all the time. The second thing, or the other things I'm going to be moving, are definitely these pink lemonade Baptisia. I've showed you these across the season. They are beautiful when they come up. They're a perfect size when they come up in bloom. They were spectacular this year. But these things, as the season has progressed, have become monsters. They're at least 4 foot wide at this point. And they are just taking over lots of space. You can see they're even crawling it's just out of control. And I mentioned, and I'm still probably going to come in and cut out the outer stems to try and thin it out a little bit. I did have a viewer comment on a video when I mentioned this last time that I could cut them down by 1/3. If you're watching this and you could provide more detail, I don't really understand how that would work with Baptisia because they don't flush back. And so if you cut them down by 1/3, I feel like there's just going to be sticks here. But if you could provide some more information on that, that would be helpful. I tried to look online, couldn't find anything. So that would be super helpful if you're watching this. So this is going to get moved. That one's going to get moved. I'm also moving this storm cloud Amsonia because it is way too massive too. I don't know where I'm going to put this. This may be one that goes to a friend's house. It is just too big, and it's not necessarily something that might be, I could put it back in the cutting area. It is a nice foliage that I don't know how it would act in arrangements, and when it blooms in the spring, it could also be a nice foliage, but it is too much for this space, both of them. And so this symmetrical, both of these beds are. This one has one too, although it's not as crazy due to this is a more compacted soil condition. So in the place of this Baptisia, my initial thought was to put a dwarf bloomerang lilac on both sides. They get 3 to 4 foot tall and wide, and the scent would be nice next to the patio. I've put 2 of those in my garden. Both of them have died. I think one was heat and lack of water, and last year I planted just a small one and it got ate to the ground and did not come back. So they're really hard to find around here too. I've only seen them once at a Rural King when I bought a substantial size one. It was like a 2-gallon, and I have not seen them anywhere else since. I think 𝗍𝗟𝗓𝗏 may carry them. They said they might get some in the fall. I don't think it's on their website to actually receive any. So since I'm not going to be planting to the fall, that is an option. The bloomerang lilac, and that will bloom twice a year. Bloomerangs bloom in the spring, and if you trim them back, it kind of encourages them to bloom again in the fall. The other option that will just be simple is to put those Obsession Nandinas there. So I don't know how quickly those things grow, but 3 to 4 foot tall and wide would kind of be the perfect size. Like I told you, this Baptisia is probably 4 foot, but it is, if I laid on the ground, it would probably be closer to 6 foot wide. So 3 to 4 foot tall and wide, I could bump it up against these stairs and it would look, I think, nice. With the red foliage, it would be something different in the space, a different color that's just not all green. It wouldn't be competing with these bobo hydrangeas or anything. It would look nice next to this. I also have that lemon lime Nandina, but I think it would compete too much with this yellow barberry I have here, which is not loving. It's getting crowded out so much right now. So let me know what you think about the Nandinas here. As far as where I'm going to put the Baptisias, I have one spot, and I might stick one. I actually have 3 of them, guys. I planted, because these were so pretty last year, I picked up one for $5 at 𝗍𝗟𝗗𝗧𝗦. And it has just got 2 little stalks out front, and that is gonna have to be moved too. After seeing how big these got, it'll definitely get bigger in that space then. It'll just look terrible. So, sorry if this video is a little scattered, but I'm just kind of throwing ideas out as I've been thinking about it. So one Baptisia may go back in the cutting garden because this is really great foliage to use in arrangements. The flowers in the spring are really pretty to use in arrangements, and also just this airy foliage texture that's kind of a bluer green. It's also really great for cutting and using in arrangements throughout the year. And the seed pods are also really pretty. So Baptisia coming out, Amsonia coming out, Amsonia probably going in the mini orchard. One Baptisia maybe going in the mini orchard, maybe 2. But I'm going to expand the bed on the south side. So you know I've told you I don't really love this garden over here, and I don't know what to do with it. And it's kind of, it gets a lot of sun, but nothing that should cause it to perform as badly as it does, I think. The drip is a little weird over here. I've mentioned that. It's kind of a spaghetti system that really needs to be addressed. I'll talk about that in a separate video. But I also have this weird cut-in, which is kind of hard to cut with the mower. I'm thinking about removing that yucca because it's just spiky and I don't love it so much. I'm not sure if that would go in the trash or somewhere else, but that'll probably be removed. But I'm thinking about just removing this jut out here. And so that will give me a little bit of space that I could put the Baptisia right there in this area, and then plant around it some other ideas or some other things that I will move around. It's one of the only places that I really have to expand beds without going back to the front yard. And I don't like to plant a ton of stuff in the front yard just to keep it clean looking out there. I also considered putting one of the Baptisias right here. So this is the Interstella lily of the valley shrub, and I don't think it made it through this heat we had. It looks really bad, really crunchy. So I thought about putting one of the Baptisias right here, and so it will grow up in spring, provide some protection from the fence this way. The rose will grow up behind it on the arbor, and then this 𝗍𝗟𝗏𝗧𝗦 arborvitae would just be some evergreen interest here. The Baptisia might cover it a little bit in summer, but it would get plenty of sunlight in winter. So that's an option. Just gonna have to think about it and see if that lily of the valley shrub comes back. I did start watering a little more and we got some rain, so we'll see if it recuperates. If it doesn't, that might be a good option to put one of them right there. I just don't know. Just so you're aware, Baptisia does not necessarily love to be moved. They have really deep tap roots, but they also seem kind of impossible to kill based on how well they've done the past couple years. So I'm gonna attempt it. They're not terribly expensive if I lose one of them, and if I do, it's worth it to try and get some more organization to this spot. So I mentioned that I kind of love a cottagey garden, but this to me at this point, because it's gotten so big, looks a little messy and overgrown. So I'm not loving the look of it right now. It's just crowding out other stuff. So we got to do something there to make me less stressed out about it. Now, if I put the Obsession Nandinas on either side of the patio, that means those are used up and I don't have anywhere to put them. I don't have to worry about anywhere to stick those. The other 2 are the lemon and lime. I'm not sure where I'm going to put those yet. I am considering placing them up front, removing some of those hosta, because I have a ton of hosta up there that are very similar. I don't know what specific variety they are. They came from Facebook Marketplace, some of the first plants I added to the garden for like $3 a piece. So I would transition some of those hostas to the backyard and start developing some of my hosta space in these areas, like under this willow and under some of these other trees that are a little more shady, so they can start developing and get really large and beautiful before its prime shade area. So that's an idea there. The ruby slippers hydrangea, I'm not sure where I would put it either. If I end up putting the blue shadows Fothergilla under the oaks, I could also remove another proudberry coralberry and put the ruby slippers under it as well. So like a different shrub between each oak would kind of be an interesting look, I think. Something different. I did want to add more oak leaves to my garden, and it'll also be some interesting fall color there. So from my understanding, the blue shadow Fothergilla has beautiful fall color. The ruby slippers hydrangea would also have beautiful fall color. Is there anything else over there? I'm not sure about the Pearl Glam beautyberry, if it has interesting fall color or not, but adding some really cool fall color under those oaks, which turn a gorgeous yellow in the fall, could be an option. I think that is it on my list right now. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I'm intending on moving, and I can't think of anything off the top of my head that's not performing like it should. I did mention this hydrangea behind me, the 𝗩𝗟𝗗𝗘𝗦, but I'm going to leave that be this year, because I think if it was given another year or so to settle in, it'll probably be fine where it's at. I think just that drought we had for a couple weeks, if I can keep sufficient water on it, it will perform much better in that spot. So I'm not considering moving it yet. I am a bit concerned about it growing too large for that space after seeing North Lawn Flower Farms. So it is 𝗩𝗟𝗗𝗘𝗦 too, and so it's going to be a similar size to the 𝗩𝗟𝗏𝗏𝗏, I think. Maybe not quite as large, but it may spill kind of over into the walkway, which is perfectly fine. This is intended to be more like a cottage border and kind of a mixing of shrubs and perennials. And so another option for that blue shadow Fothergilla was actually over in this space. I thought it would be like a really cool option to put here with this summer gold maple, the red winecraft black smoke bush here, and then like I've already got this blue texture from this grass that may have to be moved eventually, but tucking it like maybe even where the grass is, or right in this area, and then having the blue foliage with the red foliage with the yellow foliage would kind of be really interesting as well. I may, if we have some cooler days like this week, I may come sit it around in the garden in certain areas and see what I think about it. That's always a really good thing to do. Put the plant where you intend on planting it in its container for a little bit, and then you'll get a better idea if you like it in that space over a series of days. I did that with the 𝗣𝗟𝗗𝗘𝗢 I planted earlier this year, although it was just a few hours. I ended up finding this perfect spot for it pretty quickly. But give that a try if you're not sure where you might put something, and you might like it. So I think that's all I want to discuss today, guys. It's actually cooled off pretty well this afternoon, but I am still kind of on vacation mode, so I'm not going to be doing too much in the garden. There's not a whole lot to be done right now anyway, just because you don't want to be doing too much with it so hot outside. So I do need to come through and trim up the Baptisia. I may tackle that this evening. I'm not sure. We'll see. But thank you guys for joining me, and remember, in a world full of hate, be a light. Take care.